the way we play the lottery game, well, our faith can seem like this. Because what happens is, we have this moment where we have this expectation about what we're going to receive and the things that we're going to get from God and all the things that are going to happen to us. And we have these high hopes for these things that we're going to be involved in, are going to happen, that we're going to receive. And then they don't happen, and we just kind of stop believing. And then maybe we get a little bit skeptical. And then maybe we get a little bit numb. And we wonder if maybe it's really true. Have you ever felt this way before? And maybe the things that we used to do, the prayers that we used to pray, the things that we used to experience when we went to church or heard a message or did a devotional, those things just don't really work anymore. It happens. Have you been there? I've been there. It's okay to say you've been there. It's okay to say it. Because I think one of the mistakes that we make about faith or belief in God is that we feel once we believe or once we make that commitment to Jesus, once we have faith, especially in the beginning, we feel like we're going to be rock solid and we're never going to look back. When you're moving forward for Jesus, when you're doing all the things and the sun is out, and this is what happens in your faith, sometimes you feel like the sun is out all the time, right? You're seeing beauty everywhere. You're seeing God everywhere. And you think in those moments, I'm never going to lose this. I'm never going to lose sight of this. I'm never going to look back. But it happens. And in most Christian circles, and I've been following Jesus for a long time, and so I've been in some of these circles, okay? Doubt is totally off limits. It's something that you don't even talk about. It's something that you don't even entertain, because if you doubt, then you feel like you're walking away from God. And then you start asking questions like, can you even go to heaven anymore? Does he even love you? And you wouldn't dare tell this to somebody else, right? You wouldn't tell this to your pastor because you don't want him to kick you off the volunteer team. Okay, like you wouldn't tell your spouse because then you wouldn't want them to be worried about you because you're struggling in your faith. And then you have this attitude where people are like, how could you doubt God? Because, here's all the things God's done for you, right? You start going through the list of all the things God has done for you. How could you? How could you doubt? How dare you doubt? But, as you know, we've been studying Psalms for several weeks, the book of Psalms. And as I said last week, half the Psalms are laments. They're expressions of frustration and anger and despair and doubt. And we've read many of them. Here's another one. This is from Psalm 77. Will the Lord reject forever? Will he never show his favor again? Has his unfailing love vanished forever? Has his promise failed for all time? Has God forgotten to be merciful? Like, has he forgotten about me? Because I'm going through this stuff. Has he forgot? I'm still here, God. I'm still the same. Has he forgotten about me? Has he in anger withheld compassion? God, are you mad at me? I mean, I know I've done some messing up. Are you mad at me? Is that why things aren't going the way that I want them to go? This is a psalm of doubt. This is a psalm of doubt, and this is a real thing. It's a real thing. I asked a question on our text message thread yesterday, and I asked if people are having any doubt. Do we have that, Isaiah? There we go. And I asked this question, and no one said they've never doubted. No one said, yeah, I've never doubted. Because doubt's real. And maybe this is your first time here to say, man, I can't believe these people in this church never doubted God before. Well, that's because we're dysfunctional. I already told you that. We're the most dysfunctional church you will ever attend. I'm going to tell you that right now, okay? And this church is full of real people. And people doubt. People going to doubt. That's how it goes. And I know a lot of you have been in this space before, and some of you have come through it. But some of you are in the middle of it right now. But can I just tell you it's okay? Like if you doubt, you're just like the psalmist. And I told you a couple weeks ago that the Psalms were read in every church service in the synagogue. So I don't know why we act like there's no doubt in the church when in the synagogue throughout thousands of years, the Psalms of lament and doubt were read in the church service. So why isn't it part of our church service the reality of lament and doubt? It is real and it is okay. Can you tell the person next to you it's okay to doubt? It's okay. You're okay. It's okay. There's no one sitting next to you, but you're so pretty. Are you single? Do you want to marry me and have 8 children? It's okay to doubt if you're not sure. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay to doubt. Do you know why? Because God is not insecure. I need you to hear this. If you insult me or say something I don't like, it might hurt my feelings. You know why? Because I am insecure. God is not insecure. When he chose you and called you and gave the grace that saved you, he knew all about you, even your doubt. He is not insecure. He's big enough to handle it. He is okay if you doubt. Now, some might be offended by that. Maybe you're here, maybe you're watching at home, you might be offended by that. Maybe you're thinking, there's no way, that's never going to be me. I said this like a year ago, and it was like a scandal. People were upset. The pastor said that people doubt. It's okay. It happens. But you may be thinking, that's never going to be me. I'm never going to doubt. I'm walking so close to Jesus right now. I'm never going to lose sight of my faith. Well, okay. But I'm not going to tell you how to feel, but let me tell you about these 12 dudes, okay? Tell you a story about these 12 guys. They see all this incredible stuff. All this incredible stuff, miracles, healings. And they're just on this boat where their teacher calmed the storm with his hand. And then there's more miracles and healings over and over and over again. And they see demons cast out. And they see children raised back to life from the dead. And they even see their teacher feed 5,000 people from nothing but scraps of food. But then they go on another boat trip. And they forgot all that they had seen before. They had lost their faith. They grew complacent. And I'm sure you know who these 12 people are. And you know who their teacher is. So if you think that you're never going to have doubts, if you think that you're never going to feel distant, if you think you're never going to feel discouraged, well, it happened to the people who were eating and sleeping next to Jesus for 3 years. It happened to them. It happened to them. And this morning, I want to show you why it happened. And I also want to give you a solution to fix it. And this is going to be in Mark chapter 6. And for context, as we read Mark chapter 6, this is the story we're going to read is right after Jesus has fed 5,000 people from essentially nothing. Jesus is tired, and he wants to get away and pray. And so he sends his 12 friends in a little fishing boat to cross the Sea of Galilee. And he can see them from the shore, and they're struggling. And so here's what the text says. He saw the disciples straining at the oars because the wind was against them. Shortly before dawn, he went out to them walking on the lake. He was about to pass by them, but when they saw him walking on the lake, they thought he was a ghost. And they cried out because they all saw him and they were terrified. Immediately he spoke to them and said, "Take courage, it is I, do not be afraid." And then he climbed into the boat with them, and the wind calmed down. The wind died down. and they were completely amazed. And I want you to pay attention to what this says in verse 52, because we're going to come back to this. For they had not understood about the loaves, their hearts were hardened. Okay, we're going to come back to this. But if you were here last week, it's the same theme. You know, it's kind of same situation. Disciples are on this boat, and it's windy, and it's rainy, and they're a little frustrated, a little freaked out. But Jesus is not on the boat with them. And initially Jesus sees them from a long way off, but he walks to them on the water. He walks to them on the water. And the disciples, as they see him, they're freaked out. They don't recognize him. They think he's a ghost or an apparition or a spirit. And then Jesus gets on the boat, and then he calms the waters, and they are amazed. But again, the text says something really interesting in verse 52. It says they don't recognize Jesus because they didn't understand what happened earlier in the day, and their hearts were hardened. Again, just a few hours ago, they watched Jesus take 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish and feed 5,000 people with 5 loaves and 2 fish. 5,000 people. 5,000 men. We're doing the patriarchal counting, okay? So 5,000 men. I bet you there was women and children there. So, there's a lot of people being fed. A whole lot of people. A whole lot of people. But even then, they're not believing that Jesus could do it. They were sort of doubtful. Again, and they've just seen Jesus calm the water with his hand. Jesus cast out demons. Jesus healed the blind. Jesus raised the dead. They've seen all this. And still, they can't believe it. There's not enough food here. There's not enough food. And yet he does it. But what happens is their hearts had become hardened or blinded to what was real and obvious. So now they're having a hard time recognizing the work of Jesus for what it is. They're having a hard time seeing Jesus in his presence and glory because they've grown so accustomed to seeing all these miracles. And I think you can relate to this because we all experience this. In psychology, they call this habituation. Your brain literally stops registering things it sees. Your brain stops registering things that it experiences all the time. And you know exactly what this looks like, okay? You've got a pile of laundry or a tote of the Christmas decorations that you put at the end of the hallway. And for 3 days, you are full of anxiety about that tote. You know, I told those kids I told them to put it in the basement. Why are they putting it in the basement? You know, I told them to pick that up. And after about 4 days, you kind of forget it's there, okay? You just lose sight of the fact that thing exists because you see it all the time. And if you're not careful, you know, you'll do this in your personal relationships too. Maybe you forget that your wife is the most beautiful, amazing, and kind person, and you'll stop telling them that. You're so beautiful and amazing and kind, by the way, because you're so used to that person being around. Or maybe you're so used to the incredible music and incredible sermons at church, you just stop saying that how amazing they are because you just get habituated. Or maybe the sunset. I've been to a lot of places, but the sunset over Lake Erie in the summertime is breathtaking. And how many times do you go down and look at that sunset over Lake Erie? You live right here. How many times during the summer? Once, twice? I live right across the street from the lake. Right across the street. And we forget how beautiful it is because we become habituated. We just get used to it. And this is what happens to the disciples. They spend so much time with Jesus, they become habituated or almost blind to what was right in front of them. And now we read tales, we read these stories, and we're like, what was wrong with them? It's easy for us to judge them because it just seems so obvious to us. And I remember when I was in Bible college, I took several classes on the Gospels, and every Gospel has its own theme, right? And I remember taking a class on Mark, and man, this was a long time ago, and I'm not as young as I used to be, but I still remember what the professor said. He said, if you want to summarize the Gospel of Mark, you can do it in 4 words. The disciples are dumb. You know how much I paid for that class? But that's what I took away. The disciples are dumb. Wait, the disciples, 4. Double check. The disciples are dumb. Because they seem to be so clueless to everything that's going on around them. They seem to be so clueless to everything that Jesus is doing. And so if you read Mark carefully, you can pick it out. But I want to reframe this a little bit. I don't want to call them dumb. That doesn't sound very Christian, okay? It doesn't sound very nice to do that. So I'm going to say something different. I don't want to call them dumb. Let's just say that they're numb. The disciples are numb. N-U-M-B, numb. And they spend so much time with Jesus that all his works become routine and they become numb to it. And this is the weird thing about doubt and why we need to expand our definition of the word doubt, because it's not that they stop believing in God, and I think this is what we think doubt means. Oh, that means I don't believe in God anymore. That's not what doubt means. It can, but it means more than that. It means more than that. They didn't stop believing in God. They just stopped seeing the power of his work. They stopped expecting God to work. And so they stopped seeing it. So that even when he was working, they just didn't understand it. They didn't see it. And again, maybe that's you. The same old stuff doesn't work anymore. The sermons don't do it anymore. The Bible study doesn't do it anymore. The prayer doesn't do it. The worship, like all the things you did for 15 years, showing up to church every Sunday, it doesn't do it anymore. Does that mean that you lack faith or you doubt? Well, in a way, it means that you stop expecting God to show up. It means that when fish and loaves are being multiplied and Jesus is walking on water, or when he's doing the work of renewing and bringing the dead to life, you may not see it because you may not understand that bringing the dead back to life and renewal and multiplication doesn't always look so obvious, and you have to be in tune with the Spirit to see it. And so many of us are in this place. I've been in that place. And if you're there, I see you. Because I've been there. I've been there. But to be there can feel terrifying. Terrifying. Because you ask yourself, what happened to my foundation? What is wrong with me? And you're afraid to say anything. And you wonder, what happened to you? What's going on with me? Why doesn't it work anymore? Does God love me? Does it work? Is he real? What's happening? What's happening? Why do I feel this way? What's wrong with me? I think that's where these 12 friends of Jesus are at. They're habituated. And they're numb and numb. But the Bible talks about another group too. Right in this same space, it talks about another group. And this is in verse 53. When they had crossed over, and this is Jesus and now the 12 disciples are crossing over the Sea of Galilee. When they crossed over, they landed at Gennesaret, and they anchored there. And as soon as they got out of the boat, people recognized Jesus. And they ran through the whole region and carried the sick on mats to wherever they heard he was. And wherever he went, into villages, towns, or countryside, they placed the sick in the marketplaces. They begged him to let them touch even the edge of his cloak, and all who touched it were healed. Now there's an interesting contrast or dichotomy here. See, on one hand, you have the disciples who are with Jesus nonstop. They're with Jesus all the time. They're with Jesus breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they become numb to what Jesus is doing. And then you have this other group who are literally running from town to town, following Jesus. Running from town to town. Not just by themselves, but what are they doing? They're bringing their sick friends with them, carrying them on mats, because they're pursuing Jesus with this hope, knowing that, hey, there's something that's not right in the world. And because something is not right, people get sick and they die. And this is God come to earth, and he can do something about it. So let's go see him. And let's bring to him all the sick and the suffering. And so they run to Jesus. They have all this passion and hope. And all they want to do, this is just crazy to me, all they want to do is touch the corner of Jesus' cloak. Just want to touch the corner of his cloak. And the disciples, they're probably borrowing Jesus' hoodies like every day, not even thinking it's a big deal. And all these people want to do is just touch his cloak. Literally chasing him all over the map just to touch his clothing. And you know what? I bet you that the disciples, when they saw all this activity, they probably rolled their eyes like, oh my gosh, all these people. And in fact, I know they did that because the text will tell us that. Not just in Mark, but all over the Gospels, how the disciples are always just irritated and agitated with all the people. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I remember when I was a noob. But, you know, I've seen Jesus heal so many people. It's not even that big of a deal anymore to me. Yeah, me and Jesus, we go to Dunkin' for avocado toast like all the time. It's not even that big of a deal. It's not even that big of a deal. It's pretty normal, actually. Yeah, me and Jesus, man, we just, you know, like all the time. I heard all of his jokes. You hear about the one with the camel and the eye of the needle? I heard that 18 times. No big deal. Once these people snap back into reality, they'll realize that life is tough, and knowing Jesus doesn't make all your problems go away, because I've been following Jesus for 3 years and all my problems aren't going away. I'm sure that's what they thought. Do you know how I know that's what they thought? Because that's what we do too. Oh, look how passionate they are. That'll fade. Look how passionate these young kids are. That'll go away. Once reality hits, forget it. Wait till there's some hardship or trial, right? Just wait. It'll go away. We all do this. We all think this. You know why? Because we have grown numb. We have habituated. We've lost a bit of our faith. We are stuck in doubt. And it's okay. It is okay. It's part of it. It's part of it. It's all part of it. And while most of us wouldn't say, I don't believe in God anymore, because I don't think most people would say that. I don't think most people would say that. Many of us have lost sight of what God is doing right in front of us. Because we are cynical and we are numb and disappointed and frustrated, and we settle into this place of believing, well, this is just how it is now. This is just what faith looks like. See, I'm matured, so I don't get too excited anymore. I'm developed or wise, so I understand it's not all rose petals and sunshine. See, that's what we do. We settle into this space. Again, it's okay. It's all part of it. But you know what? Those of us who get into that space, we wish we could have that awe again. You know how I know? Because it's on my list. I pray for it. I pray for it all the time. I pray for it all the time. Jesus, help me to see wonder and awe. And you know what? He shows it to me in people, in circumstances that I couldn't predict, And it's not always a little girl coming back from the dead like the disciples saw. But sometimes it's a person walking through these doors who felt like they were dead because no one else loved them, but they found Jesus here. That's wonder and awe. That's wonder and awe. But it happens. This is where we get, and this is where the disciples were. And if you want to know how to get back to wonder and awe, I think the answer is right here in the text. I think it's right here. Let's look with the text. And I want to look at these runners, okay? Because the runners are the key to the story. They ran throughout the whole region and carried the sick on mats to wherever he was. And wherever he went, into villages and towns and countrysides, and they placed their sick in the marketplaces. And they begged Jesus just to let them touch the edge of his garment. And all who touched it were healed. So the people running to Jesus, it wasn't just a one-time thing. I need you to hear this. The people running to Jesus, this didn't just happen as they got out of the boat. The people running to Jesus, was a continuous action. It was ongoing. People kept coming. It went on and on and on. Wherever Jesus went, villages and towns and countrysides, the people just put their friends in the center of the marketplace. Here you go, Jesus. We're going to follow you wherever you go. We're going to run up and down the countrysides, wherever you're at. Here you go. We don't want much, Jesus. We just want to touch the corner of your cloak. That's all we want. That's all we want. Wherever he went. And all, do you see that last part? All who touched it were healed. Do you see that? All who touched it were healed. All who touched it were healed. And so the doubt and the numbness of the disciples, it was worn down. Worn down by the continuous movement and momentum of the people running to Jesus. Constantly, continuously running to Jesus, and all of them being healed. All of them being left satisfied. The awe of the people running towards Jesus was contagious. Awe is contagious. When you are in a room where someone is in awe, something's going to happen to you. And maybe not at first, but when it keeps happening over and over and over again, the wonder and awe become contagious. One person's faith over time will pull another person's faith forward. And I'm going to say it again. One person's faith over time will always pull another person's faith forward. So if you've been at this a long time and you are feeling worn out and numb, find somebody who's running. Who's running in your life? Who's that person running to Jesus? You all have someone in your life who's running towards Jesus. Maybe it's a mom who shows up to volunteer every single week because she is so certain that the mission of Jesus is good and true. And she's so certain that the work of Jesus is healing and restorative. She's going to show up every week. She's running. Maybe it's someone who's been pushed out of church their entire life, and they were told they weren't good enough or there's something wrong with them, and they keep showing up because God's grace seems so big to them, they're running. Who's running? Maybe it's somebody like Barnabas, who's all so full of the Spirit over there. You hear him singing, praising Jesus. Barnabas is running. Maybe it's somebody like Seth. Man, Seth is always so full of passion for Jesus. That man's running. How about Shay, who's just full of smiles? Every time you see her, she's smiling. Always got something good to say. How about Tommy, always posting things on Facebook? Hey, have a great day. Be blessed today. They're running. They're running. You better find somebody who's running. Find someone who's running. Now you go follow. Forget about your cynicism. And forget about all the reasons for all the doubt. You forget about all that. And just follow. Follow their lead. Are they naive? Are they too hopeful? Are they too full of life? No, they're running towards Jesus, and that's the right answer. It's always the right answer. So you go find those people who are running, and you let their passion lead you. I got to tell you, there are people who are running, and they're right here. They're in this church. And maybe it's someone who's saying, yes, this is the time I'm getting baptized in a couple weeks. They're running. And maybe it's that person who says, you know what, I'm shy, but I'm going to volunteer. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to sign up. They're running. Find somebody who's running. Pay attention to the people who are running. Follow them on the journey. And you're going to watch how Jesus moves in them, and that's going to restore the awe in you. I promise you. I promise you. And this isn't the lottery game, because this is a promise. Because awe is contagious. It's contagious. But here's the thing. If you are part of this crowd that is running, I need you to hear something. I need you to understand your responsibility. And we're going to go with this text again. And then we're going to, again, you already know the answer, but we're going to read this again. They ran throughout the whole region, and they carried the sick on mats wherever they heard he was. And wherever he went, into villages and towns or countrysides, they placed their sick in the marketplaces. They begged him to let them touch even the edge of his cloak, and all who touched it were healed. So the runners, what were they doing? I know they were running. What else were they doing? Well, what else were they doing? They were running. And what else? They were carrying. You all get an honorary Bible college diploma. Good job. They were carrying their loved ones on mats, running to Jesus, carrying their friends, so that Jesus could heal their friends. So if you are running, who are you bringing with you? If you're running, who are you going to carry? If you're running, who's coming? Because if you're running, you better bring someone with you. Bring them here to church. Carry them here to this space where we are all dysfunctional but loved. Bring them to this space, but also carry the ones in this space who are struggling? Are you on top of the world? Are you running in your faith? Then who are you going to carry? Tell the person next to you, I'm going to carry you. Can you tell them? I'm going to carry you. I'm going to carry you. And so here's the thing about it. Because not everybody who just said that feels like they're running. Not everybody who just said that feels like they're running, but you're going to get your turn. You're going to get your turn. Because the people you carry, soon enough, they're going to find their awe again. And they will be running, and it will be time for them to carry you because you're going to get worn out too. We all going to take a turn. Now, I need some, let's do a little object lesson. Can I get some strong boys up here? Girls are strong too. But I won't mess up your hair. Oh, this is going to go sideways real quick. But can I get, Seth, can you help me out? Dylan, how about you? Nate, you want help too? Oh, he's tied up. Who's that young man right there? What's up, man? Welcome to Altar Church. So I'm gonna need a little help here. Okay, so you guys go ahead and step off the stage. Hey, Seth, do you think you can carry one of these guys like 10 feet? Can you try? Okay, go ahead. Okay, oh, there we go. Look, there we go, okay. Now, could you run through the towns and the villages and the countryside like that? No, bro, you about to go to the street. All right, so you might need some help. So maybe Dylan, could you help Seth carry this young man? You guys all match. It's very cute. There we go. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Now you could go a ways like that. You could probably go to maybe you guys are a little stronger than that. You know, you could go all the way to Planet Fitness. Oof, right? See what I did? Okay, you could go all the way to Planet Fitness like that. But then you know what would have to happen if you wanted to go any further than that. Let's say you wanted to go to Target. Don't go to Target on Sunday, I'm telling you. Terrible idea. But if you want to go to Target, what are you going to have to do? You'd have to switch it up, right? You have to switch it up. And then if you wanted to go down to Home Depot, you're going to have to switch it up a couple more times, right? See. Here's the thing. You can sit down. Thank you, gentlemen. Because if you want to get to where you're going to go, it's going to take all y'all taking turns to do some running and some carrying, okay? And see, this is why we talk about community in church. I could just, sermon's almost over. Like, Kyler, don't go on a tangent. You know, we get so obsessed with the individual relationship with Jesus in the American church. I'm going to tell you something, friends. When you read the New Testament, it's about the people. Salvation is about me, this much, and about all of us, this much. Because the kingdom of God is for everybody. But we get so focused on me. What's Jesus doing for me? What's Jesus at for me? No. Jesus enters this space so I can go out into that space and be part of something out there and change the world out there with all of you. That's the gospel. So if we're going to get to where we're going to go, it's going to take all of us. And that's why we talk about community so much. That's why you heard Rachel this summer. She said, we're going to focus on being seen and being known at Altar Church. Be seen, be known. We just want to know you. We want to learn what your story is. We want to know what your hopes and dreams and fears are. And we want to tell you ours. And so it may seem silly to sign up and attend something like a tie-dye thing or like a picnic or go on a hike together. But this is where you build cohesiveness in relationships, and so we can begin to carry each other and endure through this life of faith together, because you cannot do it on your own. You cannot. You cannot. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. So we need to pull each other along. And some will run. And some will need to be carried. But in community, we commit to not leaving anybody behind. Do you hear me? Are you numb? I see you. I've been there. Are you full of doubt? I get it. I've been there too. But you know, I'll be honest with you, right now, I'm in the running mood. I'm just in the running mood. And you can run along with me if you want to follow. Because I can carry some folks with me. But not everybody. So I'm going to need some help. Anybody else in the running mood? Anybody else? Can you, one more time, can you tell the person next to you, I'm going to try out some running? I want to try to run. This is not the part of my sermon where I brag about running marathons, okay? That's not what this is about. You want to try to run? Good. Because there are people in this room who need to be carried. But here's what I know, and I'll leave you with this. Soon, those we carry, they will find their awe again, and they will begin to run. And we who carry them at first will be blessed and honored to be carried by them. And that's the church, friends. Let's stand and pray together. Jesus, I ask that you give us the wind in our sails to run towards you. I ask that you breathe life into our faith and that you heal our numbness, Lord. Help us to remember the grace that brought us near to you. Help us to believe once again that you are the answer to our hurts and longings, and you can calm the waters with your hand, and you can bring the dead back to life. And I know that because I was once the dead, and I've had waters in my life that you healed. And you told the storm to stop, and you can do it over and over and over and over again. And so Jesus, put the wind at my back and help me run towards you. And Lord, bring others along so they can run alongside me. And Lord, help us to carry those who cannot. And help us to bring the sick and the burdened and the numb and the faithless back to your feet, Lord, so they can be inspired by all that you are. And so, Lord, that when I'm down again, because it's going to happen, that they can carry me just as you have. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I'm sorry I keep doing this. I have, so this verse has been on my mind for a long time, like a month now. It's Galatians 6:1, which says, carry each other's burdens, in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ.